Welcome to Shadow of Truth with your host, Dave Cranfer from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org. And today is Thursday, September the 8th, 2016. And this is our Thursday update. And we certainly appreciate everybody being here. What, was he emailing you or something?
No, he was on Twitter. He was like, what is, this is fraud. What does economic interest mean? I was like, well, you tell me what the legal definition of economic interest is. It says right in there, your investment in the note will vary with the price of gold, but it doesn't guarantee it.
Doesn't guarantee anything.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it doesn't guarantee that you're even going to get your money back.
Right, exactly. And then he's and then I'm like, it sounds like you didn't even read the prospectus. Read the prospectus.
Yeah, let's start there.
And I read the prospectus with Titus, who's a lawyer. Well, Deutsche Bank, they're guilty of fraud. No, they're not guilty of fraud. They're not even guilty of breach of contract.
They're not guilty of anything. They have no association with this at all except for in name, and that's it.
Well, they do. They do have an association with it. They're a 16% owner of Deutsche Borse, but Deutsche Borse doesn't have any assets in it. They are what you call the I forget all the words.
But they put it together. I mean, they're the ones.
Well, actually, they didn't even put it together. They're a redemption agent. So they own. They're a part owner in Deutsche Borse, and they've also been frickin' Zero Hedge made it sound like Deutsche Bank was like a designated sponsor. Okay. Well, if you go to the prospectus, what designated sponsor? It says they're a designated sponsor of the trading of the shares. So Deutsche Bank, they're let me see where I have it in here. It says right in the prospectus, Deutsche Bank AG is not in any way obliged to protect the interests of investors.
Doesn't get much clearer than that.
In fact, none of the people who were involved in this, they all have that disclaimer in there.
Including extra gold or Xetra Gold, whatever it is, and I mean
Xetra-Gold.
What is it?
It's pronounced Xetra-Gold.
Xetra-Gold. I mean, Xetra-Gold, as part of that prospectus and that you included in your article, none of these guys are taking any responsibility for the individual investor who puts their money into these accounts at all on any level that I could see. I mean, they, like you pointed out towards the end of your article, it says you said that there are more loopholes in this prospectus than GLD. And
that's right.
That in itself should be just as well. And after reading everything that you had pulled out of the prospectus and gave your explanation, and then when you said that in the article, I'm sitting here shaking my head, yes, going, well, I didn't think there could be a bigger fraud than GLD, but apparently there is.
Well, this isn't necessarily a fraud. I mean, they stayed up front. There's no, and the way it's structured, there's no one who you can really point the finger to. If someone tries to redeem their shares for gold, the only person you could maybe point your finger to, and the prospectus doesn't offer any remedy for that. So the only thing you could point your finger to is you go to Unicor. It says right in the prospectus, the purchasers of the notes will only acquire the rights securitized by the notes. The purchasers of the notes will not acquire any title to or security interest in or beneficial ownership in the physical gold held in custody on behalf of the issuer. Now, the issuer is Deutsche Borse.
Right, and that's why I was saying that they're the ones that put the whole thing together. I mean,
and it says right in the prospectus, an investment in the notes does not constitute a purchase or other acquisition of gold.
They're not related.
Right.
Physical gold and this account are the only thing that they are associated with is the current price of gold, and that's it. That's where all the ties
Exactly.
begin and end, and that's it.
Exactly. Um, it says the purchasers of the notes will only acquire the rights securitized by the notes. Well, the only right you have, is to ask for delivery of gold from the debtor of the gold delivery claims, and the debtor of the gold delivery claims is Unicor.
Yep. And they,
So
I
if
bet
you
they, I bet they don't have a door to knock on.
no, they do. Unicor's actually apparently it's a pretty large Swiss metal refiner and trader.
Well, but that still doesn't make it any easier just because they're a refiner and trader. That's not doesn't make it any easier for the people that own the shares of this account. That's not going to make it any easier for them to get to the physical gold since the account is set up in such a way that it's not related to physical gold. I mean, and it states that in at least one or two places that you pulled out of the prospectus. And the just like I stated a minute ago, the only connection to gold is the price. That's it. That's where it begins and ends. There's nothing connected to physical gold at all, and they clearly state that.
Right. Here's what I mean. It says the only business activity of Deutsche Borse Commodities GmbH is the ongoing issuance of the notes. Now that's Deutsche. That's what you are buying the Deutsche Borse notes, and the ongoing issuance of the notes, which are the subject matter of this prospectus and transaction associated with such issuance. All activities resulting from the issue of the notes, e.g., the safekeeping of gold and the fulfillment of claims for delivery of holders, have been outsourced by the issuer to third parties. Now, Deutsche Bank is one of the third parties that you submit a claim for the fulfillment of the delivery of gold. You submit your claim through Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank then delivers that claim to Unicom because Unicom is, and I don't even, Unicom is the debtor. They call it the debtor of the gold delivery claims. So that means that Unicor is basically the issuer of the claims. So they've issued the claim to these notes or whatever. I don't even know exactly how that works legally. This thing is just so loose, and it was clearly structured so that I don't know if these guys ever intended to deliver the gold.
Doesn't sound like it from what I read in the sections of the prospectus that you pulled out. I have not read the whole prospectus. The only thing that I'm basing my commentary on is what you have pulled out of the prospectus. And
I pulled out all the relevant points. The Deutsche Bank is a redemption agent. It says it right in the prospectus. Then Zero Hedge called Deutsche Bank a designated sponsor as if it meant that Deutsche Bank had some sort of obligation to making sure if people wanted their gold, Deutsche Bank would get it to them. No, it clearly spells out in the prospectus that they don't. It says, as a designated sponsor, Deutsche Bank is the designated sponsor in the electronic trading system of the notes. In other words, DB is the primary market maker in the trading of the securities. Nowhere in the prospectus does it specify that Deutsche Bank is obligated to fulfill delivery of gold in exchange for redeemed Xetra-Gold notes. And I make it clear in there, I'm not defending Deutsche Bank. I hate Deutsche Bank more than any other bank in the world. Well, besides JP Morgan and Goldman. But I mean, I think they're probably the most violent, corrupt bank. And I was there briefly after they took over Bankers Trust. So I saw. I mean, that was always just a really creepy place and extraordinarily sleazy. Everyone there who was above me was there only to make money, and I guarantee you, half of them would have sold their mother to make money. I guarantee it.
That's pretty sleazy.
Yeah. And so the prospectus doesn't really spell out what your remedies are if you submit a claim for gold you turn in your notes and you want gold in exchange. It doesn't specify any events of default or I mean it. I think what they're hoping you do is you file a suit, and I think you'd have to file a suit in a German court and a Swiss court. But then there's a provision in the prospectus. If you decide to, if you're going to file a suit, you got to use the original language of the prospectus, which is in German. So you're responsible for getting it translated, and you got to pay for that.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean the way this is set up to me is pretty clear because I've looked at all most of these ETFs. This isn't even an ETF. I mean, this is basically set up as an unsecured note that the only right that it has is to make a claim for delivery, and the person who you're making the claim against is like 3 steps away in the chain, and it's a Swiss company.
The bottom line is, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And if you're investing in any kind of paper gold, then you don't have anything. The only thing that you have, as we've discussed over and over and over, is exposure to the movement of the price of gold. That's it. And if anybody thinks that they have physical gold, well, they're not real savvy. They don't know what's going on. They certainly haven't been listening to our show. So,
right, I agree.
Good luck with that. Good luck with trying to get physical gold out of a paper claim, because it's not going to happen. And whether or not this prospectus is set up to say that Deutsche Bank owes them gold or not really is irrelevant. I mean, because they can change it in whatever way that they want to. They've got so many different companies listed in that prospectus that they can have you running in circles trying to get physical gold. And by the time that you get out of this circle and figure out which door you're supposed to knock on, the gold is all gone anyway. So once again, good luck with that. I mean, if you want gold, go down to your local coin dealer. Call the doc over at Silver Doctors. Go get it somewhere, but get physical. So
that's right. And here's the coup de grace of this whole thing, because ultimately Unicor would be the person that you would go after to get gold, because they're the debtor of the gold delivery claims. But here's what it says in the prospectus. There's disclaimers in here that protect them. It says Unicor will be actively trading in gold, and, quote, this activity may also lead to various potential and actual conflicts of interest. Unicor AG and Company is not obliged to decide any such conflicts of interest in favor of the investors, but will, in connection with the trading in gold, take such decisions and measures at its sole discretion as it may deem necessary or expedient to protect its own interests, and will act in this context as if the notes did not exist. So basically what they're saying is, Unicor may not have any gold that it can deliver, and it may owe gold on the other side. It's going to protect its interests to make those deliveries. And if it can't make those deliveries of gold, it sure as hell isn't going to give you any gold. And it has the legal right to do that because when you bought those notes, you agreed to the terms of this prospectus.
Well, I mean, it basically says, we'll give you gold if we feel like it. And if we don't feel like it, we're not going to give you any gold. Well, I don't care.
That's right. And
I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's the simple terms, not the lawyer speak.
That's right. And like, Zero Hedge made a big deal out of saying that, Deutsche Bank, basically didn't have any response, and they seem to be liable for this, but of course they didn't read the prospectus, because if you read this prospectus, Deutsche Bank did what you would have expected it to do if you read through this prospectus, which is, they take your application, they take your notes and your application for gold, and they pass it on. They're the redemption agent. All that means is they're an agent. All they're doing is passing on your claim. It says right in there they have no obligations or responsibilities to the investor. It says it right in the prospectus. And it basically says in that last part that I read, that's directly from the prospectus, Unicor, if they decide not to deliver you any gold, they may be doing it to protect their own interests, and they have that right according to the prospectus.
We're going to
So go
protect
ahead and take
ourselves
them to court
before we
on that.
care about you at all.
Right.
We're looking out for us.
Well, it's not even so much about that. It's just, if they decide that it's not in their interest to deliver gold to you, they're protecting their interest. Go ahead and try and attack them in a court on that. Not only attack them in a court, try to attack them in a Swiss court or a German court on that.
It doesn't matter, because it says right there in it, if we feel like giving you gold, you'll get the gold. If we don't, too bad.
That's pretty much what it says. There's two conclusions we draw from this. It's like you were talking about earlier, Rory. If you want to own gold, buy physical silver, and take possession of it. If you don't do that, you're an idiot. Second lesson is, anyone who read through this prospectus and still bought these notes is just got to be the dumbest person on earth.
Well, unless they wanted exposure to the price.
So buy GLD. It's liquid. It's liquid. It's widely owned. The prospectus in GLD is tighter than this prospectus. You have more protections in the prospectus in GLD, and that's not saying much.
It's not saying anything, really.
Right. So, if you want to just index the price of gold, buy GLD. I mean, it says in this prospectus, they're not even guaranteeing that these notes will index the price of gold.
And I said that this was a fraud, and you said it wasn't. Now, if somebody, I mean, they at least have the common courtesy to tell you that this is a sham right up front. If we want to follow the price of gold, we'll do that. If we want to give you gold, we'll do that too. But if we don't want to do either one of those, we'll just make stuff up. I mean, that's what it said. That's what you just read.
Right, but see, it's not really a fraud, because if you read the
they're at least being honest.
Well, you're not required to read a prospectus before you buy something, before you invest in something, but you should. And this basically says, this is what we are. If you buy our notes, you're agreeing to the terms of this prospectus. We're not hiding anything. Rory, they're not hiding anything. It's all spelled out plainly. This is one of the easiest prospectuses I've ever read through, the easiest to read, and it spells out the risks, and it spells out your lack of protections in plain English. It is right there in black and white. I mean, the GLD prospectus, you really have to kind of read between the lines and figure out, where they're coming from a legal perspective. In this one, it says right out there, basically, and it says in there's a point in there, and I don't think I copied it and put it in my write-up, but it says none of the third parties or none of the people who own the shares in Deutsche Borse, which are basically all the third parties who are making money off this, none of them have any responsibilities to protect investors. And it spells it out right in the prospectus. These people who are involved in this security are doing it to make money.
Doesn't get any simpler than that.
That's right. That's exactly right. The custodian, Clearstream, they're doing it because they get custodial fees. Deutsche Bank's doing it because they get fees to be a redemption agent, and they get fees to be the designated sponsor of the equity. Unicor's doing it because they're getting paid for the gold that gets purchased by Deutsche Borse and put in the Clearstream vault.
Supposedly.
They may be issuing, and that's the other thing, they may actually be issuing notes, claims on gold, and giving it to Clearstream. I mean, it's not even clear to me that, there's not any, again, I didn't check for this. I don't think there's any way that you could go and knock on Clearstream's front door and say, can we see the Deutsche Borse gold? They'd tell you to go pound sand.
or go talk to Umicore.
I don't even know if they'd say that. They'd say, come back with a lawyer who shows us where we have to show you the gold and we'll let you in. How do we know? You may be a security risk. You might be a terrorist, you know?
Well, yeah, because you want gold, you must be a terrorist.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
look,
what do
you
you want
got
the
a
gold
beard, so
for?
you are definitely a terrorist.
What? You want to come look at all these pet rocks sitting in our vault?
These barbarous relics.
Not even earning interest in there. What do you want to see that for?
Yeah, go get some NERP bonds.
Can't eat it. What good does it do you?
Yeah, go talk to Abe over in Japan and get you some negative interest rate bonds. Get out of here. Get away from me, kid. You're bugging me.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's just sad. It's just sad, Dave. I'm glad I'm glad I like physical.
And here's what I'm envisioning. You got the officers and directors of Clearstream. They're probably sitting in a big empty vault and they have a screen set up and they're there in directors' chairs watching porno movies.
Oh, yeah, and if you knock on the door, then they switch the image to a stack of gold. Say, yeah, there it is, right there.
Right. But the thing of it is, there's a shelf with all the notes, the claims on gold that Unicor's issued to Clearstream.
All the IOUs.
These are the IOUs. Yeah, you want the gold, we'll deliver it to you.
Sometime.
Trust us.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think this may be one of the lighter shows we've done.
Yeah, it's a good week for it.
Yes, it is. Well, all right there, brother. We'll have a good weekend, and I guess we'll pick it up then and take it from there.
Sounds good to me.